Private Jack Miller wiped sweat from his forehead. As he hacked through the dense jungle of Epsilon 9, the air was thick and humid, filled with strange sweet smells from alien flowers that bloomed in shades of blue and purple. He was the point. Man for the Terran Exploration Corps team, sent to survey this newly discovered planet. How much farther to the clearing? Asked Sergeant Lisa Boyd over the radio. She was 50 meters behind him with the rest of the 6-person team. About 200 meters according to the scanner, Jack replied. He sliced through a curtain of vines with his machete. The signal is getting stronger. Definitely artificial structures ahead. The team had picked up unusual energy readings. That morning, Captain Greg Winters had ordered them to investigate, hoping they might find evidence of intelligent life. After 3 months of cataloging plants and animals with no signs of civilization, the team was eager for something new. Jack pushed through the final wall of vegetation and stopped suddenly. His mouth fell open. In front of him was a city. Not ruins or primitive huts, but a living, breathing alien city with tall spires that curved like snake heads toward the sky. The buildings were made of a material that looked like green metal, and they reflected the sunlight in ways that hurt his eyes. "Holy cow," he whispered. "What is it?" Lisa asked over the radio. "You need to see this," Jack said. "I found people." Well, not people exactly, but definitely intelligent life. The rest of the team caught up quickly. They all stood at the edge of the jungle, staring at the alien city in amazement. Captain Winters activated his universal translator and spoke into his comm unit. "This is Captain Greg Winters of the Terran Exploration Corps. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact." For several minutes, there was no response. Then a voice replied in a hissing, clicking language that the translator converted to English. "Approach slowly. 4 of you only. No weapons." Captain Winters nodded to Jack, Lisa, and Dr. Ben Foster, the team xenobiologist. "We'll go. The rest of you stay here and maintain communication." Jack felt his heart beating fast as they walked toward the city. As they got closer, he could see movement at the city's edge. Tall figures emerged, standing nearly 7 feet high. They had scales instead of skin, in patterns of green and gold. Their heads were shaped like those of earth lizards, with vertical pupils and yellow eyes. "Draconians," Dr. Foster whispered in awe. "Reptilian humanoids. Incredible." The aliens watched the humans approach with obvious caution. One stepped forward, wearing elaborate armor with symbols etched into the metal plates. The universal translator identified this one as the leader. "I am Commander Rixel," the alien said. "You are the first non-Draconians to visit our colony. Why have you come to Epsilon 9? Captain Winters explained their mission of peaceful exploration. As he spoke, Jack noticed the Draconians relaxing slightly, their tails no longer whipping back and forth in agitation. "We have heard legends of mammals that travel between stars," Commander Rixel said. "But we did not believe such soft-skinned creatures could survive the harshness of space." Dr. Foster laughed softly. "We might surprise you. Humans are quite adaptable." Commander Rixel invited them into the city for a formal meeting. As they walked through the streets, Jack saw Draconian children peering from windows, pointing at the strange visitors. The adults tried to appear dignified, but their curiosity was obvious. The meeting hall was a large circular room with no chairs. The Draconians stood in a formal arrangement, with Commander Rixel at the center. Captain Winters presented gifts from Earth, samples of music, art, and literature stored on data crystals. "We propose a cultural exchange," Captain Winters said. "We would like to learn about your people and share knowledge of our own." The Draconians conferred among themselves, their tails swishing in what Dr. Foster whispered was a sign of excitement. "We accept," Commander Rixel announced. "Tonight, we will have a ceremony to honor this historic meeting between our peoples." The ceremony began at sunset. Large fires burned in stone pits around a central courtyard. Draconians played strange instruments that made music unlike anything Jack had ever heard. It reminded him of wind rushing through canyons with deep drumming that he could feel in his chest. Jack stood with his team, watching as Draconian dancers performed a ritual that Commander Rixel explained was about their journey to the stars. The scaled dancers moved with surprising grace, their bodies flowing like water dots. Suddenly, screams erupted from the edge of the courtyard. Jack turned to see a large creature scuttling toward the gathering. It had 8 hairy legs, a body the size of a large dog, and dripping fangs that gleamed in the firelight. "Venom beast," a Draconian shouted. "Run!" The Draconians scattered in panic. Jack saw Commander Rixel trying to protect a smaller Draconian, possibly a child. Without thinking, Jack ran toward them, hoping to help. The Venom beast changed direction. Sensing movement, it leaped at Jack with surprising speed. Before he could dodge, it sank its fangs into his left arm. Sharp pain shot through him as the creature's jaws clamped down. Jack yelled and punched the beast with his right hand. The creature released him and skittered away into the darkness. The courtyard went silent. Jack looked up to see every Draconian staring at him with expressions he couldn't read on their alien faces. Commander Rixel approached slowly, eyes wide. "How are you still standing?" Rixel asked, voice filled with disbelief. "The Venom beast's bite kills within minutes. Our strongest warriors fall to their knees immediately." Jack looked down at his arm. 2 puncture wounds were visible, with a small amount of blood and a clear liquid oozing out. The area around the bite was red and starting to swell. It hurt, but not terribly. "It's not that bad," Jack said, rubbing his arm. "Feels like a little tingle, honestly. Kind of like a bee sting back on Earth." A murmur ran through the crowd of Draconians. They backed away slightly, forming a circle around Jack. He noticed some were making gestures that might have been religious signs. "Is something wrong?" Captain Winters asked, stepping forward. Commander Rixel's vertical pupils widened. "Nothing is wrong. Everything has changed. Your warrior has survived that which kills our kind instantly. This human walked through death as if walking through light rain." Jack tried to explain that he wasn't a warrior, just a survey specialist. But the Draconians weren't listening. They were talking rapidly among themselves, pointing at him, their tails moving in patterns that Dr. Foster said indicated extreme excitement and awe. Dr. Foster quickly examined Jack's wound and gave him an antivenin injection as a precaution. "Your natural resistance is fascinating," he whispered. "Their biochemistry must be radically different from ours for the same venom to affect us so differently." As medical attention was given to Jack, he noticed the Draconians watching every move with intense interest. Children were being brought forward to see him, as if he were some kind of miracle. "I think you just became a legend," Lisa said with a smile. "The human who laughed at the Venom beast's bite." Jack shook his head. "Great. All I wanted was to catalog some plants, and now I'm an alien celebrity." But as he looked at the Draconians, expressions of wonder, he realized that this accidental demonstration of human resilience might have done more for human-Draconian relations than months of careful diplomacy ever could. News traveled fast. By the next morning, Jack could barely walk through the Draconian city without being followed by curious onlookers. Children with bright green and gold scales trailed behind him, whispering and pointing. Adults tried to appear more dignified, but their yellow eyes tracked his movements with intense interest. "This is getting weird," Jack said to Lisa as they walked toward the communication center. The Draconians had given the human team access to their technology so they could send reports back to Earth. "You're a living miracle to them," Lisa replied. "Dr. Foster says their history is full of stories about warriors who died from venom beast bites. Not a single survivor in their records. Inside the communication center, Captain Winters was already recording his report. He nodded to Jack and Lisa as they entered. "Command needs to know about this immunity factor immediately," he said. "It could be the foundation for a meaningful alliance." Dr. Foster was examining data on a tablet. "I've analyzed the venom sample we collected. It contains neurotoxins that attack reptilian nervous systems. Mammals like us process these compounds differently. We're not completely immune, but our bodies can break down the toxins before they cause serious damage." Commander Rixel entered the room with two other Draconians. They bowed their heads slightly toward Jack, a gesture of respect that made him uncomfortable. "The Council of Elders wishes to meet with the human who survived the venom beast," Rixel announced. "This is a great honor." Jack looked at Captain Winters, who nodded. "Go ahead, Miller. This could be important for diplomatic relations." The council chamber was larger than the meeting hall, with high ceilings and walls covered in carved symbols. 7 elderly Draconians sat in a semicircle, their scales duller than the younger members of their species, but their eyes just as sharp. "Step forward, human," said the central figure, whose scales had faded to a pale yellow-green with age. Jack approached and stood at attention. "Private Jack Miller of the Terran Exploration Corps, sir." "I am Elder Sazek," the old Draconian said. "For 10,000 cycles, the venom beast has been our greatest natural enemy. Its poison kills our children, our warriors, our elders. Yet you, a soft-skinned creature from another world, shrugged off its bite as if it were nothing." Jack wasn't sure what to say. "Our bodies work differently than yours, Elder. It's not that I'm brave or special." Elder Sazek made a clicking sound that the translator didn't catch. "You misunderstand. We do not think you performed a feat of courage. We think your people may be the answer to an ancient prayer." The Elder explained that the Draconians had been at war with another spacefaring race called the Morgoth for over a century. The Morgoth used weapons laced with toxins similar to the venom beast's poison. Draconian soldiers died by the thousands, unable to approach Morgoth strongholds protected by poison barriers. "If humans can resist these toxins," Elder Sazek said, "together we might stand against an enemy that has pushed us to the edge of extinction." Jack felt the weight of the Elder's words. What had started as a simple exploration mission was quickly becoming something much bigger. "I'm just a survey specialist," he said, "but I'll tell my superiors about your situation." Commander Rixel escorted Jack back to the human team's temporary quarters. Along the way, they passed a training ground where young Draconians practiced with long spears. "Our warriors trained from hatching," Rixel said, "but against the Morgoths, poison weapons, even the strongest among us fall." "Have you tried protective gear?" Jack asked. "Their toxins eat through our best materials. Only living tissue with natural immunity could withstand it." Rixel looked at Jack with those unnerving vertical pupils. "Tissue like yours." When Jack told the team about the Draconian war with the Morgoth, Captain Winters immediately sent an urgent message to Earth Command. This was no longer just a first contact situation. It was a potential military alliance. 3 days later, they received a response. Commander Olivia Bennett of the Terran Defense Force would arrive within the Eagle, week with a diplomatic team to discuss alliance terms. "They're taking this seriously," Captain Winters told the team. "Command sees strategic value in helping the Draconians." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "And in having allies who can withstand radiation levels that would kill humans instantly, according to what the Draconians told us about their abilities." Jack spent the days waiting for Commander Bennett's arrival, learning about Draconian culture. He discovered they were an ancient species who had mastered space travel thousands of years before humans. Their society valued honor, wisdom, and strength. But they had never encountered mammals in space before meeting humans. We thought soft skins too fragile for the void between stars, explained a draconian named Tekril, who had been assigned as Jack's guide. Your bodies contain so much water, we assumed you would freeze or dry out in space. We have technology to protect us, Jack said, and we're tougher than we look. To Jack's surprise, Tekril bowed deeply. Yes, you are the proof of that, Venom Dancer. Venom Dancer? Jack asked. It is your new name among our people, Tekril said. One who moved through poison as if dancing through air. Jack wanted to object to the nickname, but he could tell it was meant with deep respect. Commander Bennett's ship arrived exactly on schedule. Jack and the rest of the team stood with the Draconian leaders as the sleek vessel landed in a cleared area outside the city. It was much larger than the small scout ship that had brought the exploration. Teen to Epsilon-9. Commander Bennett emerged with 5 officers and 2 scientists. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and the confident posture of someone used to command. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of the Draconians, but she showed no other reaction. Commander Rixel, Elder Sazik, she said, nodding to each. On behalf of the United Earth Government, I bring greetings and an offer of friendship. The formal introductions took place in the council chamber. Commander Bennett explained that Earth was interested in a mutual defense pact. In return for human assistance against the Morgoth, they wanted Draconian help with radiation shielding technology. But first, she said, turning to Jack, I need to understand exactly what happened with this Venom Beast incident. Private Miller, report. Jack described the attack and his reaction to the bite. As he spoke, he noticed one of the scientists taking notes and the other scanning his arm, where the bite marks were still visible as 2 small scars. The reaction you describe is consistent with a mild allergic response, said the female scientist. If this venom affects neural pathways specific to reptilian biology, it makes sense that mammals would process it differently. Elder Sazik leaned forward. Can all humans resist these toxins, or is this one special? We would need to run tests, the scientist replied. But based on the biochemistry, most humans should have similar resistance. Commander Bennett nodded. Which brings me to my proposal. We're prepared to form a joint human-Draconian military unit as a test case. If successful, it could lead to a full alliance. The Draconians conferred among themselves, tails swishing in what Jack now recognized as their way of showing excitement. We accept this proposal, Elder Sazik finally said, and we request that the one called Venom Dancer be part of this unit. All eyes turned to Jack. He swallowed hard. This wasn't what he had signed up for when he joined the exploration course. He was a surveyor, not a soldier. But he saw the hope in the Draconian's eyes, and he remembered the stories Tekril had told him about Draconian colonies lost to the Morgoth's poison weapons. If my commanders approve, he said, I'll volunteer. Commander Bennett smiled slightly. Already taken care of, Miller. You're being temporarily reassigned to the Joint Task Force, effective immediately. As the meeting continued, Jack realized his life had changed completely. All because a venom beast had chosen him to bite, and his human biology had turned what should have been deadly into just a little tingle. He wondered what other surprises waited as humans and Draconians learned more about each other's strengths and weaknesses. The training facility orbited Epsilon-9 like a metal ring. Through the viewport, Jack could see the green and blue planet below. 3 weeks had passed since Commander Bennett arrived, and things had moved quickly. 20 more humans had joined them, all soldiers with special operations training. They would form the core of the joint human-Draconian unit. Still admiring the view, Venom Dancer? A voice hissed behind him. Jack turned to see Tekril, now his official partner in the unit. The Draconian wore the new combined uniform, black, with patches showing both Earth and Draconian symbols. Just thinking about how strange life is, Jack said. A month ago, I was cataloging plants. Now I'm training for combat against alien enemies." Tekrel's tail swished in amusement. The universe rarely follows a straight path. They headed to the main training area where Lieutenant Susan Clark waited. She had been appointed to lead the human side of the joint force. Her counterpart, a draconian veteran named Krax, stood beside her. Both looked serious. "Listen up," Susan said when everyone had gathered. "Today, we start toxin exposure training. The Draconians have provided samples of Morgoth weapons for us to test." Jack noticed the Draconian soldiers shifting nervously. For them, even being near these weapons was dangerous. "Humans will handle all toxin-based materials," Krax added, his voice deep and rumbling. "Draconians will manage radiation zones and heavy combat roles where your natural strength gives advantage." The training room had been divided into sections. In one area, Draconian instructors taught humans how to use their plasma weapons, which were heavier than Earth guns. In another section, human medics showed Draconians how to apply antitoxin patches to affected comrades. Jack and Tekrel were assigned to a special unit focused on infiltration. They would be among the first to enter Morgoth facilities, with Jack clearing toxin barriers and Tekrel handling any radiation-shielded areas that would harm humans. "Time for your first exposure test," Susan told Jack, leading him to a sealed chamber. "This contains a diluted sample of a Morgoth toxin bomb. We need to know exactly how it affects you." Jack swallowed hard but nodded. He entered the chamber, wearing only standard fatigues, no protective gear. A small metal sphere sat on a pedestal in the center of the room. "Releasing toxin in 3, 2, 1, said a technician's voice over the speaker. The sphere clicked, and a green mist sprayed into the air. Jack held his breath instinctively. "You need to breathe it in," Susan said through the com. "That's the point of the test." Jack reluctantly took a breath. The mist had a sharp, bitter taste. His skin tingled where it touched, and his eyes watered. His throat felt scratchy, and he coughed several times. But he remained standing and conscious. Behind the observation glass, the Draconians watched in amazement. One of their scientists held up a scanner, checking Jack's vital signs. "Incredible," the scientist said. "A tenth of this concentration would kill a Draconian in seconds. His body is actively breaking down the compounds." After 15 minutes, Jack was allowed to leave the chamber. Medical staff examined him immediately. "How do you feel?" Dr. Foster asked, checking Jack's pupils. "Like I have a bad cold," Jack said, still coughing occasionally. "My skin itches and my throat hurts. But it's manageable." Dr. Foster nodded. "Your immune system is responding well. The toxins are being neutralized in your bloodstream." The tests continued for days. Different humans showed varying levels of resistance, but all could withstand toxin levels that would be instantly fatal to Draconians. Meanwhile, the Draconians demonstrated their ability to function in radiation levels that would give humans radiation sickness within minutes. "We are perfect complements," Krax told the assembled unit after 2 weeks of training. "Apart, we each have weaknesses our enemies can exploit. Together, we cover those weaknesses." Admiral Frank Harrison arrived from Earth to observe their progress. He was a stern man with a reputation for being hard to impress, but even he seemed amazed by what the joint force had accomplished. "The Morgoth have held the advantage for too long," he said during his inspection. "They never expected to face an enemy immune to their primary weapons." Jack was introduced to the Admiral as the catalyst who had started the alliance. The Admiral studied him with interest. "Sometimes the greatest military advantages come from unexpected places," he said. "A survey specialist with natural immunity might be worth more than a battleship in this conflict." Jack felt uncomfortable with the attention, but understood its importance for the alliance. The next day, he and Tekril were called to a special briefing with the command team. We've located a Morgoth forward base on one of the moons of Dracos Prime, Susan explained, showing a holographic map. It's being used to launch attacks against Draconian colonies in the sector. Cracks pointed to the base's defensive systems. Toxin barriers surround the entire facility. Our forces have never been able to approach without taking devastating casualties. This will be our first joint mission, Admiral Harrison said. A small team will infiltrate the base, disable its defenses, and allow our main force to attack. Jack looked at the mission roster displayed on the screen. His name was at the top of the infiltration team, along with Tekril and 4 other pairs of human Draconian operatives. We leave in 48 hours, Susan said. Get yourselves ready. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewport again. Looking down at Epsilon 9, he thought about how random chance had put him in this position. One venom beast bite had changed everything. Tekar Il found him there in the early hours of the morning. The Draconians seemed to understand Jack's anxiety. Without words. In our culture, Tekril said after they had stood in silence for a while, we believe that some are born with a destiny written in the stars. I don't believe in destiny, Jack replied. Things just happen and we deal with them. Tekril's eyes gleamed in the dim light. Perhaps. Or perhaps the universe put you in the path of that venom beast for a reason. Jack thought about the upcoming mission, about the lives that might be saved if they succeeded, about the unique partnership forming between humans and Draconians. Either way, he said finally, we have a job to do. Tekril placed a clawed hand on Jack's shoulder. And we will do it together, Venom Dancer. Your immunity and my strength combined. As preparation for the mission intensified the next day, Jack found himself thinking about Tekril's words. Maybe there was no such thing as destiny. Maybe it was just random chance that had put him in the right place at the right time. But the alliance that had grown from that chance encounter might change the course of the war. And it had all started with a little tingle from a venom beast bite. The transport ship approached the moon of Dracos Prime silently. Its stealth systems hid it from Morgoth sensors as it glided through the darkness of space. Inside, Jack checked his equipment one last time. He wore a lightweight combat suit designed for maximum mobility. Unlike the Draconians in full battle armor, humans needed less protection from the Morgoth toxins. 5 minutes to drop zone, the pilot announced over the intercom. Lieutenant Susan Clark moved through the cabin, checking on each team member. Remember your training, she told them. Humans clear toxin barriers. Draconians handle radiation. Zones. Stay with your partners at all times. Jack looked at Tekril, who was adjusting his plasma rifle. The Draconian scales seemed to shimmer with tension, but his hands were steady. Nervous? Jack asked. Tekril's vertical pupils narrowed. In 300 years, no Draconian force has successfully breached a Morgoth stronghold. Today we make history or join the honored dead. Let's aim for the history part, Jack said with a weak smile. The ship slowed and hovered above the landing zone, a flat area about 2 miles from the Morgoth base. The team dropped quickly to the surface, using gravity reducers to soften their landing. The moon had a thin atmosphere that humans could breathe with help from supplemental oxygen, but it was comfortable for Draconians. Move out, Susan ordered once everyone was on the ground. Keep radio silence unless absolutely necessary. The landscape was barren and rocky, with jagged mountains rising in the distance. The team moved swiftly across the terrain, staying low and using natural cover. Jack felt the lighter gravity in his steps as he ran alongside Tekar Il. After an hour of careful movement, they reached the outer perimeter of the Morgoth base. It was an imposing structure of dark metal, with tall towers that scanned the surrounding area. A faint green haze surrounded it completely, the toxin barrier that had kept Draconians at bay for centuries. First team, Move into position, Susan whispered into her comm unit. Jack and Tekro were part of the second infiltration team. They watched as two humans and their draconian partners approached the barrier from the east side. The humans walked straight through the green mist, their bodies registering the toxins as merely irritating rather than deadly. They carried portable shield generators that would create a safe passage for their draconian partners to follow. Our turn, Susan said, pointing to the west side of the base. Team 2, go. Jack took a deep breath and moved toward the toxin barrier with Carl Evans, another human operative. They approached slowly, testing the concentration. This is stronger than the training samples, Jack said, as he felt the burning sensation on his skin intensify. His eyes watered and his throat constricted painfully, but still manageable. They pushed through the green mist, fighting the discomfort. Once through, they activated their shield generators, creating a toxin-free corridor. Jack gave a signal, and Tekril rushed forward with another draconian named Zyrax. The barrier is clear, Jack reported quietly, moving to Phase 2. According to intelligence, the Morgoth relied heavily on automated defenses. Few actual Morgoth would be inside the facility. The goal was to reach the central control room and disable the defense systems, allowing the main draconian human fleet to attack. They found an access point, a maintenance hatch near the base of one of the towers. Carl attached a decoder to the electronic lock while the others kept watch. "We're in," Carl whispered as the hatch slid open. The interior was dimly lit with pulsing red lights along the corridors. The air was thick with the same toxins that formed the outer barrier. Jack felt his lungs burning with each breath, but he pushed through the discomfort. Beside him, Tekril and Zyrax stayed within the protection of the portable shields. They moved through the facility according to the memorized floor plan, avoiding security sensors. Twice they had to hide as automated patrol drones passed by. The combined human-draconian team worked in perfect synchronization, each species covering the other's vulnerabilities. Then they encountered an unexpected obstacle, a radiation containment breach in one of the corridors they needed to cross. The warning lights flashed, and the radiation meters on the human suits immediately spiked to dangerous levels. "We can't go through there," Carl said. "The radiation would kill us in minutes." Tekril stepped forward. "This is why we work together. The radiation will not harm us as quickly." The situation had reversed. Now it was the Draconians' turn to take the lead while the humans stayed back. Tekril and Zyrax moved into the radiation zone, their scales providing natural protection. They worked quickly to find an alternative route for the humans, communicating through hand signals to avoid detection. After tense minutes, Tekril returned. "We found another way. Follow us." The team rerouted through maintenance tunnels, making slow but steady progress toward the control center. Along the way, they placed small explosive charges at key structural points, part of the plan to create confusion during the main attack. Finally, they reached the central hub of the facility. Through a reinforced window, Jack could see the control room. Inside were 3 Morgoth operators, the first he had ever seen in person. They were cybernetic beings, their bodies a disturbing blend of organic and mechanical parts. Their skin was pale gray, and multiple mechanical appendages extended from their torsos. "How do we get past them?" Jack whispered. Susan pointed to an environmental control panel nearby. "The Morgoth atmosphere contains different compounds than what we breathe. If we can alter the mix." Carl worked on the panel, bypassing security. "Protocols. Ready. This will flood their chamber with Earth-normal atmosphere." "Do it," Susan ordered. The effect was immediate and shocking. As the air composition changed, the Morgoth began to convulse. Their mechanical parts sparked and their organic components swelled. Within moments, they collapsed to the floor, incapacitated by what humans and Draconians revved normally. "Move in," Susan commanded. They secured the control room quickly. The main console was alien in design, but the Draconian intelligence officers had prepared them well. Carl and a Draconian tech specialist named Rill worked together to access the defense systems. "I've got it," Carl announced after several tense minutes. "Defenses are going offline now." Jack watched through the control room window as the green toxin barrier around the base flickered and disappeared. In the distance, alarm systems began to wail. "Send the signal," Susan ordered. Jack activated the encrypted transmitter that would alert the waiting fleet. Barriers down. Defense systems compromised. The way is clear. Within minutes, the first wave of the joint human-Draconian fleet appeared in the sky above the base. Dropships descended, carrying hundreds of soldiers. For the first time in centuries, Draconian forces were able to directly attack Morgoth. Stronghold dot as chaos erupted around them. Jack looked at Tekrill. The Draconian's eyes were fixed on the incoming ships, a look of fierce joy on his reptilian face. "You did this, Venom Dancer," Tekrill said. "Your immunity made this possible." Jack shook his head. "We did this together. Your strength and my resistance." "Just like you said." Susan interrupted their moment. "We're not done yet. We need to secure the data cores before the Morgoth can wipe them." As they moved deeper into the facility, Jack thought about how far they had come since that first Venom Beast bite on EPSILON 9. What had started as a chance encounter had led to this moment, the first real hope the Draconians had known in generations. And it had all begun with a little tingle. 10 years passed since the first joint mission against the Morgoth. Jack Miller stood on the observation deck of the Draconian Human Alliance headquarters, looking out at the stars. His hair had some gray now, and 2 long scars ran down his left arm, not from the original Venom Beast bite, but from battles that came after. "Admiral Miller, the representatives have arrived," said a young human officer behind him. Jack turned and nodded. He still wasn't used to the title, even after 5 years. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be right there." The conference room was large, designed to accommodate both species comfortably. Around the table sat Draconian and human military leaders, scientists and diplomats. Among them was Tekrill, now a commander in the joint fleet, and still Jack's closest friend. Jack took his place at the head of the table. "Thank you all for coming. Today marks 10 years since the Battle of Dracos Prime. 10 years since our alliance proved its worth." A hologram appeared above the table, showing a map of the galaxy with green and blue territories highlighted. Draconian and human space now fully allied and expanding. Red areas showed the shrinking Morgoth territory. A war is not over. Jack continued. But today we signed the Permanent Alliance Treaty. What began as a military partnership will now extend to science, trade, and cultural exchange. Elder Sazek, now ancient but still sharp-minded, spoke next. "When a venom beast bit this human, none of us could have predicted where it would lead. Our peoples, once strangers, now share a bond stronger than blood." The formal signing took less than an hour. Afterwards, Jack found himself standing with Tekrill in a quiet corner of the reception hall. "Do you ever think about how different things might have been?" Jack asked. "If I hadn't been bitten that day?" Tekrill's scales had darkened with age, now a deep emerald green. "The universe unfolds as it must. But yes, I think about it often." There, conversation was interrupted by Professor Alan Winters, a xenobiologist who had arrived to document the historic signing. He was working on a comprehensive history of the Alliance. "Admiral Miller, Commander Tekrill, I was hoping to record your personal accounts of the early days," he said eagerly. "The story of the Venom Beast has become almost mythological, and I want to capture the truth before it's completely transformed by legend." Jack smiled. The truth is less dramatic than the stories they tell now. Tell me anyway, Alan insisted. Activating his recorder, Jack described that first day on Epsilon 9, the diplomatic ceremony, and the unexpected attack. I felt the bite, and it hurt. Don't let anyone tell you it didn't. But compared to what it did to Draconians, it was minor. Just a tingle, really? And that simple biological difference changed everything, Alan said. It was the beginning, Tekril added. But what followed required courage, trust, and sacrifice from both sides. After the interview, Jack visited the Alliance Academy, where young humans and Draconians trained together. In the main hall stood a statue, not of Jack, as some had wanted, but of a human and Draconian standing back to back, protecting each other. The inscription read, "Different strengths, united purpose." A class of cadets was touring the facility. Their teacher, a Draconian female, spotted Jack and waved him over. "Cadets, this is Admiral Miller," she said. The Venom dancer himself. The young Draconian's tail swished with excitement. The human cadets stood straighter. One small Draconian. Child stepped forward. "Is it true you killed 100 Morgoth with your bare hands?" he asked, eyes wide. Jack laughed. "No, that's definitely not true. I'm just a survey specialist who got lucky." "But you started the Alliance," a human girl said. "We learned that. The Morgoth were winning until humans and Draconians teamed up." "That part is true," Jack admitted. "Sometimes the greatest strength comes from combining different abilities." That evening, a formal celebration marked the treaty signing. Representatives from both species shared music, food, and stories. Jack watched it all with a sense of wonder. He remembered how strange the Draconians had seemed when he first met them, how alien their customs and biology. Now humans and Draconians worked together seamlessly, each learning from the other. Susan Clark, now a general, joined him at his table. "Quite a change from that first mission, isn't it?" "Sometimes I can hardly believe it," Jack replied. "The Morgoth never stood a chance once we joined forces," Susan said. "Their whole strategy depended on toxins that affect Draconians, but not us, and radiation that hurts us, but not them. Together, we had no weaknesses they could exploit." The latest intelligence reports indicated the Morgoth were considering peace. Talks for the first time. Their empire, built on exploiting the vulnerabilities of other species, was crumbling as more races joined the alliance. Later that night, Jack returned to the observation deck. Epsilon 9 was visible as a distant green, dot among the stars. He thought about the random nature of it all, how one moment, one creature, one bite had set everything in motion. Tekril found him there, just as he had before their first mission. "Thinking deep thoughts, old friend? Just appreciating the view," Jack said. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Then Tekril spoke. "In the hatchling schools, they tell your story now. The human who laughed at the venom beast's bite. They call it the beginning of our golden age." Jack shook his head. "Makes me sound more important than I was." "Perhaps," Tekril said, "but symbols matter. The story shows our young that differences can become strengths when combined properly." A group of cadets, human and Draconian together, passed by on the deck below. They moved as a unit, comfortable with each other despite their different biologies. Jack watched them with pride. "I suppose if my one claim to fame is being bitten by the right creature at the right time, I can live with that," he said. "Your claim to fame is much more," Tekril insisted. "You were willing to step into the unknown, to trust beings very different from yourself. That took courage." As the celebration continued below, Jack thought about the long journey from that first contact today. The Alliance had grown beyond what anyone could have imagined. And while the story of the Venom Beast would continue to be told and retold, probably growing more dramatic with each telling. The truth was simple enough. Two species had discovered that their differences made them stronger together than apart. And it had all started with a little tingle.